Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya and welcome to TFR Insights. vFucntion is a platform for developers and architects that kind of transforms complex monolithic Java applications into microservices, which of course allows developers to reap benefits of cloud native computing and the whole DevOps, workflows and philosophies. vFucntion emerged from stealth this month, and they also announced 12.2 million in seed funding and a cloud native modernizing platform. To learn more about vFunctions, today we have with us Moti Rafalin, CEO and co-founder of vFucntion. Moti, first of all, it's great to have you on the show.
My pleasure.
So let's start with the company itself. You just came out of from stealth mode. I want to understand from you that if we do look at cloud native work, it's a crowded space. A lot of people are trying to solve a lot of problems, but one of the biggest problems still remains the lift and shift, where you have a lot of legacy applications and you have to bring those users to the modern world. So talk about this story, the history of vFucntion. What inspired you to start it, and what vision you have for the company?
That's a great question, and you already alluded to the answer there, Swapnil. So, it was over 3 years ago, and we sort of came out of our previous company, which we sold to BlackBerry, and we were looking for a big problem to solve. And this is very timely because just now Andy Jassy has been nominated to be the CEO of Amazon, and there is this very famous chart of Andy Jassy at reInvent with a number of services that AWS is releasing to the market. And it's a hockey stick. If you know that chart, it's a very vivid chart where AWS releases, now thousands of features or services every year. And that kind of hit us that if you know anything about enterprises, you know that they cannot absorb that amount of innovation. They cannot absorb that type of, those types of capabilities. And so there is a widening gap between what we call cloud innovation and what is the enterprise reality. And that chart of AWS is only a proxy for all the innovation that is happening. And so that kind of inspired us to say, okay, can we find a technology or a platform or something to help these customers bridge that gap? Because as you correctly mentioned, in order to reap the benefits of the cloud, you need to transform your application to microservices. If you only lift and shift, you can shut down your data center. You're not going to get any benefits beyond that. If you re-platform and just put it in a container, you're going to get some benefits on the DevOps side. But again, you're not getting the elasticity or the engineering velocity that you really want to get from cloud native. So that's kind of what inspired us. And just to complete this, we've been working on this platform for 3 years. So it was a huge technology undertaking, and the investors were willing to go with us for the ride. So for 3 years, we developed the platform. And here we are. We have some major customers using it today.
So can you talk about the tech part of it, that how much investment companies have to make into kind of modernizing their applications, or it's so easy that they don't even have to worry about it?
So happy to explain the technical kind of aspects of the platform and really how it works. So the platform has 3 phases to it. The first one is the data collection and learning phase, right? And that is where we deploy our agent in production. You deploy first our server locally, wherever the application is, and you deploy our agent on the JVM that you want to analyze. And then you leave it in production for a few hours, maybe a day or 2. If you want to do it in pre-production, you can run it in pre-production, and then you need to run some tests to get as much coverage as possible. The idea here is that the dynamic analysis allows us to identify vertical services, real user flows that exist on this application. Our agent samples the threads 100 times a second. We construct the full call tree. And then based on our algorithms, we identify the optimal entry point into each of those services after calculating all kinds of metrics, for example, the exclusivity of those services. So the exclusivity pertaining to the classes, the resources, that is part of the secret sauce that allows our platform to identify services that correlate to real domains. We complement the dynamic analysis with static analysis of the binaries to understand things that you don't see in dynamic analysis, like compile time dependencies, infrastructure jars, Spring and EJB configuration and things of that sort. And the synthesis of the dynamic and static analysis gets presented to the architect. And that is where it becomes a very interactive platform. all that richness, right? First of all, the synthesis of the two types of analysis is pretty unique. And then the richness of the information is presented in a very elaborate way. I hope we can share some screenshot at some point. And then the architect can interact with the platform, decide which services to extract, which services maybe to merge or split further. It allows the architect to really design the microservices architecture. Again, very, very powerful. And once the architect feels comfortable with the outcome, with the push of a button, the system creates a service specification file, which is a file that has all the information to create these microservices based on the original code. So it's a JSON file that has the entry points, the parameters, the context, the classes, and so forth. That gets fed into our automation engine that goes and scans the original code, copies all the artifacts from the original code, and creates new projects with well-defined APIs, and those are the newly created microservices. And then we're pretty agnostic in terms of where you want to deploy those services. It could be on AWS, GCP, Azure, your own OpenShift, private cloud, whatever. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of taste of how kind of the platform works and the technology under the hood.
When we're talking about time, how long does it take? Are we talking about minutes, seconds, months, weeks, years?
So if you think about the phases that I mentioned, the data collection phase, let's say it's a few hours for an application of, let's say, 100,000 lines of code. It really depends on the flows that exist and the functionality of that application. We only need to see each flow once. Okay, so it's not about, it's just about coverage. Then the interaction with the platform can take a few hours, and if it's a very complicated platform that requires more work on it, meaning refining some of the boundaries of the services, that could take maybe a day or two. And then for each service, let's say the first service could take half a day, and then it becomes like a cookie cutter and a couple of hours, and then every hour you can extract a service. So in total, to give you an answer, for a typical application, let's say about 3 days to decompose it into those services. So it's a huge, huge acceleration.
It is a platform, and as you earlier also said that once those Java monolith applications are converted into cloud native microservices, they can run it wherever they want. But does your job stop there, or when you look at it as a platform, it goes beyond that?
Sure. So when we think about the modernization process, we think of it as a two-phase process. The first phase is what we think is the difficult one, and that is the decomposition of this monolith into well-defined microservices with well-defined APIs, right? That is what we're focusing on. We're also doing some things to take it, to re-platform it. Let's say you want Spring Boot microservices. We do all that for you. But then there's definitely room for the ecosystem to add security, observability, all those other things to make it true cloud native. We're part of the ecosystem. We're not going to do everything for you. There are better suited companies and technologies to complement what we do, and we're partnering with them. So we already have these types of partnerships today, by the way.
First of all, of course, what is the importance of partnerships there? And if you can talk about what kind of partnership you have, and if you can also talk about, since you got our stealth mode, I'm pretty sure there are already customers who are using it. So if you can name them, that's great. If you cannot name them, if you can just give us an example of what kind of companies are using it.
So in terms of partnerships, I'd say there are two categories of partners that we have. One is the system integrators that are excited about this type of technology. So we have these partnerships in place, for example, with Wipro, with Tata, with HCL. And they love to partner with us because we provide them the technology so they can actually tap into a larger spectrum of applications. They can accelerate these projects. They can be more competitive. We're just a software company that charges license for our software. So that's one type of partnership. The other type of partnerships is the technology partners like Red Hat. So we have a partnership with Red Hat. We utilize OpenShift with IBM. We're working with VMware. And we're looking to expand that obviously beyond these names. So I can't name the others because we haven't signed anything yet. But we're definitely looking to partner with smaller vendors that have parts of the cloud native ecosystem, and with the larger ones, including the cloud providers that stand to benefit the most I would say, from our technology, because if you're thinking about AWS or Azure or Google, they want to unlock the value of the cloud for their customers. If you only lift and shift, you're not getting the value. If you only re-platform, you're not getting the maximum value. With our technology, you're able to get that type of value. There was another question about customers. I'm sorry. So yeah, we have it running in production with some of the largest banks in the world. At least one of the largest banks, of the three largest banks in the US, and I would say in the world. I can't actually say their name, but they have 4,000 Java applications. And we also have the largest bank in Italy. With them, we are able to mention their name. That's Intesa Sanpaolo. It's the largest bank in Italy, the third largest bank in Europe. Also, they're using it in production. They have 450 Java applications. We agreed on a 110 applications project. We're in the midst of that type of modernization. They actually pushed us to develop the dashboard that gives them the visibility across the modernization pipeline, because after they started doing it on a few applications, they said, oh, can we see what's happening across the modernization pipeline? And so they helped us actually develop that dashboard.
Moti, thanks for explaining the customers, the use cases, and the partnership. Let's talk about the vision. You just came out of stealth mode, but I'm pretty sure that you have a very strong roadmap. So can we first of all talk about the roadmap? Number two is that if there are people who want to try, do they have to be a customer, or they can explore, they can experiment with it as well?
Users who want to use our platform are invited to use it. We have a freemium model where you can install our server, install our agent, analyze your application, see exactly what you can do with it, and we only charge the minute that you want to extract those services. That is when you need a license. So we'll be happy to provide access to our technology. You can get a really good feel for what it does by working with it, and yeah, we charge when you want to extract. With regard to our vision and kind of where we're going, so Java is an enormous market. There are 21 billion JVMs in the world. All those major banks have thousands of these Java applications. So we're focusing on Java now. Next phase, we're going to support additional languages, .NET, could be Python. We'll see where that goes. And in general, our capabilities are unique in the sense that we're able to synthesize dynamic and static analysis. So our vision and our goal is eventually to help customers not need to do modernization at all by constantly monitoring their code, analyzing it, and increasing the engineering posture of that code. Right? We're able to identify dead code. We're able to identify the pitfalls that will prevent you from the need to modernizing down the road. So we want to be part of your CI/CD down the road, not only modernize one time.
Moti, thank you so much for taking time out today and talk about vFunctions, your roadmap, and also the most important thing is that yes, there are billions of Java-based applications, and they need to move to the cloud network, and there is a massive demand for. There are a lot of solutions, but what is needed in the cloud network is to reduce complexity. Otherwise, it can get very complex. So it's a great story with vFunction, and I'm pretty sure that you have a lot of great stories to tell in coming time. So I'd love to talk to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Swapnil. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity.